Listeners, welcome at another standalone episode from podcast channel Solid State Society named Cabaret. It is few days when I accidentally stumbled upon on YouTube on video that describe or went into background of one of my most favorite movies. At least movies would describe reality and environment where the Nazism in pre-war Germany was created. It's the movie Cabaret. Cabaret based on Broadway play is a musical movie released in 1972, and it's basically pointing out reality of 1930 Berlin during the rise of Nazi movement there. Honestly, even before these videos, before I deep down in rabbit hole and discover more and more about creating of movies, about background of this movie and musical, and about the creators itself. Even before that, for many years, I considered this movie as basically best motion picture to describe, to tell people, and lets them, at least for some degree, live through experiences what the world that create Nazism really looks like. And if you have someone, let's say someone from Asia that was not tell too much about Nazism and the world would create Nazism before the war's Germany, or if you have, let's say, child that still do not know too much, I would recommend you to show them and watch that movie with them, because this movie is explaining so much. It's showing so much. And if you are noticing, or if you explaining to that person the small details, it creates this colorful picture of what happened and why that happened. It's more important movie, or it's much better movie to explain reality before World War II Germany than any document or any other movie trying to explain to you, or documents about the rise of Nazism and their leader to power and things like that. No, that's data, what you can read in every historical book. For you, it's important just to know that Nazism led to war, there was Holocaust, there was concentration camp with gas chambers, and 10 million of people died there, 6 million of them because Jewish bloodline, because they was part of Jewish ethnicity. That's basic facts. But to really understand how this evil ideology could be created at all, and how it took power in the land of Germany in that time, the movie Cabaret, especially the movie more than the theater play, can show you reality. And if you are watchful viewer, you notice so many things inside to explain to you why that happened. But this is not reason for me to create entire episode about that. First, I just thought that I will make post on some social network and just pointed out that this movie existing, and you, if you did not watch it before, then you should definitely go and watch it, because it's describing of reality of before World War II Berlin and Germany, environment of Germany back then, and it's basically explaining to you how Nazism was created and how it took power in that society. But more and more I dig deeper, combination with today's world, more I realize that this is just part of the story. And the movie itself is not just pointing out and explaining us reality and terrors of Nazism, World War II, and Germany before World War II, but it's also explaining opposite part. Because if you are now, as me, if you became more familiar with actual creators of musical and movie itself, you realize that it's same example like with series and book of Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale is propaganda of feminists against their enemies, against the people who, let's say, want anti-feminist and more conservative, more modest people. And the Cabaret itself is same example. It's the people who today we can call them LGBTQR plus woke liberals, that they are pointing out errors of their enemies, and that was Nazis. But right now, in our moment of history, in last few years, even like 10, 15, 20 years, many people would not be actually capable to see whole extension of outcomes of other side, because the movie and theater play before that, the play was created first time in 1966, and the movie itself came out in 1971. So even 2 years back, the play and the movie, it's the child of sexual revolution hippies era. It's creation of these liberals that they are pointing out sexual revolution, LGBTQR plus as normal, basically normalize sexual deviance, wokeism, and other things. For them, for the creators of the movie, they created as warning, oh, this has happened in before World War II Germany, and that led to rise of this evil ideology of Nazism. And now there is another sexual revolution running in our streets right now, and we don't want that happen again. And the funny part is, right now, 60 years later, we know that it didn't happen again. It was warning against what actually did not happen. What happened was opposite. These people, these movements, these ideologies, these liberal point of views on world, on sexuality, on people, have flourished, was not stopped, and spread like wildfire through entire society. And now, in this point of our history, we can actually see that maybe this is what the autocratic ideologies, the regimes like Nazism, was trying to warn us that too much freedom, too much liberal can actually lead to bad outcomes also. I create more and more I think about it. I create great metaphor. Imagine that you are suddenly consuming large amount of food. Or maybe food is not healthy, or it's not good, it's outdated. So you are eating large amount, probably even junk food. And you're consuming very much. You're consuming much more than your body actually needed. What happened? There are only two ways what could happen. Two outcomes. The first outcome is that your body will reject this huge amount of food that you are trying to eat and process through your body. And what will happen if your body will reject so much so junk food? It will reject it, and your stomach will literally throw it away, its own content, through the mouth, where you first get inside your body. Your stomach and your body will become in seizure, or maybe you will first get stomach pain, and then your stomach will literally flush away its content through your mouth back. This is what happened with fascism and Nazism. These free liberal ideologies. It's like this junk food. And the Nazism and fascism is like this seizure when your body, and in our example, society, is rejecting that. And it will make you pain, it will make you sick, and in worst case scenario, it will throw away everything back outside your body. But what happened on other side? If your body will actually accept this huge amount of probably junk food, if your body will be able to process it. But as we all right now in our today's society knew, what happened if you consume too much food? If your body is processing much more food that your body actually needs, you became fat. You became obese. And with that, it will come many other complications. And the story of Cabaret is a great example that both things in last 100 years happen to our civilization, to our society. There is a sexual revolution that happened not in just in 60s, but it actually happened also in 1920s and 1930s. The time of that was their own sexual revolution. Sexual prostitution, folkism, gay, and many other things was at rise. Same way as it was at rise in 1960s. Difference was that back then in 1930s, probably with combination of bad economy, Europe under consequences of First World War I, and especially Germany, that it was in very bad situation, basically economically collapsed. And all these new things, all these liberal things, sexual revolution, LGBTQR plus people, and sex work, and many other things was too much for its own body, for the society. And society rejected through rise of the ideology that it was very autocratic, very totalitarian, and suppress all of that too much. Same way as in our metaphor, the body rejecting food, and it will reject all the food, not just the amount of food that is too much for your stomach, but your stomach will empty whole content, not just food above. And this is what happened in World War II in Germany. But now, fascinating point of time is that after 30 years, another sexual revolution come. And this one, nobody stopped. And all the freedoms, all the people and the things what they want to do was allowed to do. And that led to actual consequences. Consequences that they are totally different than would happen in previous sexual revolution, but they are dire and they are very bad for our society as well. And similar, like in my metaphor about the flaws of capitalism and rise of the communism, with or flaws of the communism as well, in shower effect, the problems with liberals, with a second sexual revolution in 1960s created, have outcomes and consequences that did not come immediately. It was not fast. It was not as fast as the rise of the fascism and special Nazism in Germany during 1930s. No, it took much longer. It took not just few years. It took 60 years. But now, especially now, in 20s of 21st century, we can actually see where all these things lead and led us to very dark places full of very unpleasant things. And it's funny how basically sexual revolution is coming every 30 years. It was 1930s. Back then, body rejected and revolution was stopped and suppressed. But Nazis and fascism was defeated, and under another 30 years, new sexual revolution and liberalism through the society appeared again. And that would lower itself a little bit. It was not stopped, it lowered a little bit. And after another 30 years, another basically sexual revolution came. 90s of 20th centuries was a very liberal era as well. And again, it repeated same pattern, maybe not so in eyes or openly viewed, but the notes was similar, like in 1960s and 1930s. And again, after 30 years, we see again a new rise of liberalism, new types of the people who are trying to tell us that it's okay to be a sex worker, it's the prostitution is right. We again are seeing things like normalizing sexual deviance from LGBTQR plus to even pedophilism. And again, we have rise another bad things like interruption. Why 30 years? It's simple. It's one generation. People who lived through 1960s sexual revolution have the children, and they became adults and start to live their life, truly live their lives as adults in 1990s. And people from 1990s again have children, and these children are now 20, 30 years adults who are living their lives again and trying to explore their own sexuality. But now, after 60 years, when society do not reject all these, I want to say perversions, but I will not spoil you how this episode will go to, but the society that do not stop liberalism, do not stop these people who believe in unlimited freedom and you can do whatever you want, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter if you affect other people or how that will affect society. And the people who believe that are the people who actually made Cabaret, the Broadway show, and the movie itself. And now, when I realize that, I can clearly see how they was not just pointing out all our enemies, fascists and Nazis was bad, but also showing after 60 years how their own beliefs and ideologies was bad as well and have bad outcomes on us, society. So for those who are not familiar with the movie or theater play, a little bit of story talk. The Cabaret, the play and especially the movie, is a story about few characters. Basically, there are two main ones, maybe three if you calculate also additional person, but it's not true whole movie, so we can suggest that there are only two main characters. And both characters are pointing out the errors and flaws of common people back then and the era itself. First character is young man, writer, I believe he's Englishman, an Englishman coming to the Berlin in 1930s. He studied or very prestige university in England. I believe he studied on Oxford. He's well educated. He has great potential. He's very clever. And probably one day he will be very well working. But here start the flaws and errors of the era. You have this very intelligent, very ambitious young man who could do much for the society, could be placed in many roles and create many wonderful things. But as in our democratic capitalist society, basically after end of World War II until this day, nobody cared. Nobody cared about this young man. So he is poor. Nobody cared. Nobody put him in position. Nobody offered him job in the society. So he is poor, he is free-like, and he's traveling and started living in the Germany, in the Berlin. Because he's very poor, he rent a small room offered by some elderly lady that for small rent allows him to live there with other people. And basically the story itself starts as young poor English man, very well educated, is coming to the Berlin in 1930s. The second very important or main character of the movie is young woman or young girl that is already living in the room next to our first character. And this girl is basically cabaret singer. She is young, she's kind of beautiful, and she's very free-like. Nobody controls her, and she's very sexual, how to say it, explorers, as would feminists today would say. And she also want to going through life only for entertainment, and she also sing in cabaret where she basically work. For those who are unaware, explain cabaret. Especially during that era, the cabaret was basically theater. But in first part of 20th century, where the rise of movies, when the movies arise, when there was a cinema invented and it became more and more common between people, but still there was not TV, but visiting cinemas became more and more frequent. Typical normal theater back down a little bit, and there was also cabaret. Cabaret basically is theater also, but it's more, how to explain it in English, sleazy. It's more, explain, not all cabarets of that era, but many or most of the cabarets was actually brothels. It was whorehouses. It was place where you come and have sex with women for money. But yes, there was the brothels was like below that, and the cabaret was better because it was offering you not just have a sex with the girl, but also you can drink there, sit at a table, maybe eat something, and you were entertained by basically a small theater and musical play. But don't forget, the cabarets of that era was most likely B, and the movie actually suggests similar situation, that it was basically whorehouses. Maybe not directly, but on the places like that, you would find a prostitute that would sleep with you for money, for sure. And by the way, our second main character, the young girl, is doing that as well. Yes, she thinks that she's artist. She is singing on the cabaret on stage, and she sings very well. In the movie, she is played by Liza Minnelli, and she's great in that role. She's wonderful. But also, to honestly say, she's whore. She's whore. She sleeps with lots of men. She's very promiscuous, and it's heavily suggested that she also taking money for that. So she is basically prostitute. And I'm not sure how much what was intended back then in 1960s, or how it's coincidence, or now 60 years later we can look upon that more badly than back then, or differently. The makeup, what the character of Liza Minnelli constantly wear, of course, the dress and makeup is suitable for that era, for 1930s, but the makeup itself, especially her eyes, was very street girl type. She is really street girl type. The kind of prostitute what is offering her body, walking on the streets, also but trying to look like she kind of class, but she really don't have. It's this type of street girl that character what Liza Minnelli is playing. And both characters are in some kind of pathetic and also pitiful, because as the society basically do not care and reject our first main character, young man, also the character played by Liza Minnelli is rejected by the society in some degree. She pointed out that her father was some kind of powerful or rich man, definitely not typical poor man, but he basically do not care about her. And probably what we see from the end of the movie and end of the story, that her father probably abandoned her. Not maybe entirely, but at least partially. So the character played by Liza Minnelli is basically this girl, promiscuous girl with daddy issues. In today's world, she would be OnlyFans model or porn actress having sex for money, especially want attention. That's why she sing and act on stage, on podium, because she like attention. She's not just a whore in sex, but she is a whore. She's also attention whore. She like to dance and sing because she like attention. As we can see in today's world, with many girls pointing out the videos on social networks, even their sex videos, to get attention. The attention whores are a huge problem of today's society. That was mainly increased also by the new communication devices through the social networks and availability of mobile phones with video cameras. And she is precisely this type of girl. She's promiscuous, she's drinking a lot, she sings because she like attention, and she have abandoned issues from her father. And she's living in next room to our first main character. And entire story we are following basically their story, how they became together and how they are living their young life in Berlin during 1930s. And I will not spoil you the end if you are not familiar with the movie or music or theater play, but let's say it doesn't have happy ending. Mentioning of happy ending, the movie and the play itself is musical. So there is lots of singing there, but not as typical musicals in that era or basically until today, where they are characters, they are doing something, and suddenly they are trying, they start singing, and then after singing they do again, there's next scene, again people are doing something else, and then they start singing again. This is typical how normal musicals are made. Cabaret is a little bit different. There is lots of singing and dancing, but not in like inward scenes, but as the scenes from stage, from podium in the cabaret. So let's say something is happening, and we also are looking and we are hearing songs what are played in the stage in this cabaret. Cabaret is called Kit Kat Club, by the way. And another, I don't want to say main, but stage character is character of M. M is basically main host, probably owner of the cabaret. He always introduce, speak, play, dance, and sing most of the roles. He's basically most recognizable character in the movie and in the play itself. He, through his words, through his singing, he basically making comments on what is happening in real life. Almost all the musics, almost all the dancing are happening on the stage through him. And we don't know much about him, but the character itself is also saying something about the creators, about the world. Because, and it's again typical for that era, he is the man dressed like man during 1930s, but he wears lots of makeup, and he have also lipsticks on his lips. I'm not quite sure if that mean that he's some kind of gay transgender or not. It's probably suggested, because the club itself, cabaret itself, is full of LGBTQ plus people. And entire story is basically about that. Because the story and the music, the play and the movie that was made from the play is basically based on the book Stories from Berlin from Arthur, that was basically that young boy. It's almost like autobiography, even when it's not precise. The author itself suggests that it's not total autobiography, but it's heavily inspired by what he lived actually when he was living in Berlin during 1930s. And the LGBTQ plus propaganda, and I don't want to say propaganda, ideas, let's say ideas, is heavily through that movie, through the play. Not just the cabaret, basically theater is full of obviously transgender gay people. It's not just prostitute light girls dancing there, but there are also men dressed as women and many things as that. But also main character, by the way, as the author of Berlin Stories itself, is also, today movies suggest that he's queer, I would say partial gay or bisexual. It's complicated. What happened? Another great topic, another great thing, what he's saying about the time, about reality, and what could be heavily applied on today's world as well. After some time, character of Lisa Minnelli, that is very affected girl, that is very intense, very friendly, also very invading. She of course became a friend with our main male character from basically the very beginning. She actually introduced him Kit Kat Club, the cabaret where she is playing, dancing and singing, and also prostituting herself. But after some time, she of course started to flirt with him, and of course, she wants to have sex with him, where she actually succeed, but it was not smooth as someone could expect it, because our main male character thinks, at least until that time, that he is gay. And if I remember it correctly, his precise words is that he do not have luck with girls, so he start to be intimate with men. And this is great, because it happened not just back then, and yes, the author of Berlin Stories, who basically wrote that, or at least roots for the story itself, was gay, and the stories are about how he went to Berlin and he was fascinated by LGBTQ plus community in Berlin, and he have a romance with actually several men in there. But he is seduced by the girl, and he allows that. So he's not gay, he is bisexual. And again, it's the same situation of 1960s, especially today, that many men rather became intimate with men than have intimate relationship with women, because they cannot understand and they cannot get a woman. And this was great example of that. He basically suggests that he is gay because he was unable to find agreeable woman that could be intimate with him. But our second main character, the young girl, became intimate with him. But that's not all, because a new character appeared. I believe character is called Max, and this character is some kind of royalty, some kind of German feudal. I believe he is Baron, and basically he's prototype of rich and powerful guy. And because he's rich, so he entertained all of them that showed throwing money, and they are entertained, both of them, the women and the young men as well, by Max, and basically both start to have a romantic relationship with that man. And the character of that man basically showing us another flaw or error of that society, and unfortunately our society as well, because he appears, he entertained them, he offered them, both of them, the money and prestige and basically entertainment, what money can bring, and he basically used them, and then he promised them lots of things, and then he suddenly disappeared. Basically, this character, or let's say differently, every character in the movie is embodiment of some kind of flaw or error of society of Germany during the rise of the Nazism. Or I should say, all of them embodiment some flaw that eventually lead to rise of Nazism. And many characters actually embodied more than one flaw. And this Max, this Baron, is embodiment of how rich and powerful can do whatever they want. He's not evil, and he's not forcing them, but he's using them. He has money, he can do whatever he wants. And because people, especially in our capital system, are fascinated by money, of course they have tendency to be with him and be entertained by the effects of his money. But as he appeared, as he actually used them, suddenly he disappeared. It's a great example how rich, and rich means powerful, can do basically whatever they want and not see consequences. As I told you, entire movie is musical, and the songs are always displayed as this dancing and singing acts on stage. Most of them played by Ems, the main host. And what even creators of the movie, like producer or director, did not see where they was creating the movie or the theater play, is how the music acts actually embody the flaws and errors of that societies. Basically, if we use religion jargon, we can say sins of that society. For example, there is a song called Money Money, basically about how money is everything in our world. That means corruption. There is a song about two girls or two ladies, I believe it's called, about basically men have two girls and have romantic relationship with two girls at once, and they do not see that as something evil and something bad. The creators of the movie do not see that as something bad, and the host MC do not see that as evil. He's actually constantly mocking everything. He is not just singer and commentator of what is happening in story itself through his music acts, but most of the time he's basically mocking everything. He's Joker. He's mocking. He's making laugh, and the song about him having two girls at once, it also looks as the funny. And that's what actually struck me more and more I deep in background of the movie creation, is how these people, basically actors from Hollywood and actors from Broadway, don't see the evilness and bad things inside. They do not see as how it's bad if one man have two women at once. And that's the problem. That's what struck me. And for those who are so corrupt but out today by our society, where these liberals literally during 1960s when nobody stopped them and they spread their free like liberal ideologies through our society. Yes, it's bad if you have more than one partner at the same time. It's bad, and monogamous partnership, monogamous model of family is superior. We know that. We can see that more than ever before in our history, because we spent last 60 years to allow people like creator of that movie, all these actors and directors, producers from Hollywood, actors from theater, from Broadway and other parts of the world. They are the ones who push these ideologies, these sexual revolution ideas, LGBTQ plus Vogue. And we now see where all this ends. We see how deep this dark hollow goes, how deep the rabbit hole is, and where it ended. and it's not a pleasant end. And all the musics are basically about this. There is song about money and how money are everything. There is song about men who have relationship with two women. That's also bad, by the way, as I explained. And there is another song, probably one of most controversial songs. The man, the main host of the cabaret, of the main singer and actor, MC, is singing how he start love gorilla. And there is literally probably woman dressed in costume of gorilla that is also put in the woman dress, and he make basically song how he loves her, and point of that song and act, dance act on podium on stage is that it's actually not monster, because he point out that he doesn't see her as Jewish, pointing out that in the society, in back then, in 1930s German society, more and more controlled by Nazism, anti-Semitism rise. And the song is pointing out how opinions of most people, of common people and society itself, are suddenly changing. And they now see Jews as monsters. All the songs are like that. Deeply, you think about them, more ugly and monstrous way they are actually saying. And of course, the movie itself, the spoiler alert, is basically how the society became more and more radicalized, how it became more controlled by Nazism. And literally the movie itself is ending of last singing dancing act by main host, by MC, and showing that many or most people in podium, in crowd, are now Nazis, pointing out how Nazism take power in German society. But what I'm trying to point out for you, and I suggest all of you, even when you saw that, if you do not saw that just, let's say, a few months ago, if you, as me, saw that movie years ago, go and watch it again, and watch it closely, how the details, small details, are pointed out. But also think about how these things led to actually counterpart. It was clubs like Kit Kat clubs, cabarets like this one, where the men can dress in women's clothing, where the gays were prostitutes offering their body and sex for the money, and as the main character suggests with one of her colleagues, spread of STDs is on rise. It's saying about how the money in very poor society is everything in character of Max. There is basically subplot with another couple, another young man and young Jewish woman that became in love and married. But because I don't want to spoil you and they are not so important, I will not mention them more. Basically, I stay with these main two characters, what I mentioned in the beginning. And when I'm talking about musics, about dance play in the movie, there is actually one song that is not played on stage in Kit Kat Club. It's one, I believe it's only song in entire movie that is happening somewhere else. And it's song Tomorrow Belongs to Me. I like that song very much. I literally have it in my phone and I'm playing on very high volume in my car when I'm driving somewhere, because what the song itself is very melodic and very instrumental. Also, it's pointing out, it's literally a song that it's making point, and it making very dark point, by the way. And what entertains me very well, that I'm always driving around people. Sometimes when I stop on lights and there's some person coming around my car and he must hear the song, nobody stop. Nobody asked. Nobody knew what that song is. And that is funny and scary for me in the same time. Because Tomorrow Belongs to Me is basically unofficial Nazis anthem. And the song, especially in the movie, how it's staged, it's very truthful and very also entertaining, and taking you in the story and explaining you a situation. What is happening? The Max, the rich baron, took our main male character on some vacation to countryside. And they are in some open restaurant under open sky in some countryside, and they are sitting at a table, drinking, probably eating something, I do not know, but they are at least drinking. And the scene starts that young, very Aryan-like, blonde young boy start to sing. And for those who are unaware with the song, Tomorrow Belongs to Me is very lyrical and also very, basically, patriotic song about the land, about Germany. And it starts with words, sun on the meadow is summery warm. It's song about the world around us, how environment, nature, land, how everything is beautiful, how everything is great. That's the song is. There is nothing evil inside, and the song itself is not evil itself. But more and more it became actually anthem, because young boy start to sing, and he's singing in his one voice, but everybody start to hearing him, and suddenly another person is struck by it, taken away with the song, and stand up and start to sing as well. And there is another person, and suddenly all people in the restaurant sing the song with that boy. And the scene is staged so brilliant and so great that just that song, at least go and you can find it on YouTube. Just write Tomorrow Belongs to Me. And when you see the video where is young blonde man, young blonde boy in brown uniform. That's the part of the movie. And they're just like 2 or 3 minutes. The scene itself is so genius. And it's saying so much. First of all, it's great. It's on countryside. Compared to other plays in theaters where this song is basically played in the probably Kit Kat Club itself, and the movie take it to another level. The reality that it's not staged in the club in the city itself, but it's song and it's staged in countryside is so genius, and it's saying again so much about back then reality. Because in cities, these liberal ideas, promiscuity, prostitution, LGBTQ plus woke, they all thrive in cities. If you know voting, let's say in the United States, you know the cities are always more liberal than countryside. These liberal ideas are always hidden deeply in the cities where they thrive, but they never thrive on countryside. And on the other hand, it's countryside and people living in poor, very small villages and small cities, in nature and people like that, not in big cities. They are the ones who actually first have enough with crazy liberal ideologies. So it makes total sense that in the city, they are still very much liberals. All the actors and singers, prostitutes from Kit Kat Club that are okay with this very much liberal point of view of theirs and what they are doing, but countryside already have it enough. The song itself, The Tomorrow Belongs to Me, and how everybody started singing is basically point how slowly and now suddenly all people became in Germany following Nazism and Nazis leader Adolf Hitler. This is the point of the song. How common people, how they was take, how they all became part of this mass, how they all sing the same song. And you can see in the restaurant that at the end, everybody or almost everybody is singing. Our two characters, our main male characters with his now boyfriend probably, the Baron Max, are watching the situation, but they are actually not fully part of it. And everybody in the restaurant is singing. Only one man is not singing. There's older, elderly man who did not join them. And you can see on his face and on his reaction that he feels not strange, uncomfortable. He don't want to join. And if you realize that the song represents Nazism itself, the idea of nation supremacy and also going to war, that this old man probably represents all the people who, let's say, was fighting in World War I, knew what fighting and war is, all the suffering what it brings, someone who lived through much experience and now want peace and don't want to go to war, don't want to follow Nazism. And that's why he is not singing with all of them. But on another hand, the scene is so great because first, the young boy, the blonde boy, starts to sing. At the first moment, we see only his face. But suddenly, as camera is going down, we suddenly see that he has brown uniform and he is Nazi. And there is also undertone, what I maybe project myself in him, or it's maybe intended, I'm not sure, but I have feeling that young boy could be also gay. Honestly. And maybe his participation in Nazism and how eager he is in Nazism is some kind of way to suppress this part, or this darker part, twisted part of himself, not became gay. And the first person who jump on Stan and start with sing with him is young girl, teenage girl. And again, maybe it's my projection, but I could imagine, and I'm thinking that, okay, this is young girl who wants to get know about herself, wants to be seen, probably want have boyfriend if she don't have it. Basically, the attention-looking girl. And she start to sing with him. And then another two boys, young boys, they look like normal, troublesome boys who are running around the village, in the forest, constantly doing some kind of fun, adventuring around. These two typical young boys, teenage boys, have started to sing as well, and they are standing from other side. And then another two boys, they're looking older, and they see as these two beautiful, very masculine, very strong, probably elite-like men who could be picturing them as the two leaders of football team or rugby team in school. These two guys from another side of the restaurant start to sing as well. And then you can see older lady that looks bad, but she looks almost terrifying, but she starts to sing as well. You can see a lone man in middle of his age, standing alone, start to sing as well. Then you can see this elderly man, not senior, like that one who don't want to sing, but elderly in over his prime, but it's not old yet. And he literally looks like someone who is rich or powerful in their society. Probably some kind of mayor or someone like that. He suddenly stand up slowly, as his position is. He stand up and start to sing with his deep voice as well. And then you can see mother with the child, and child is singing as well. So everybody suddenly sing all of that. And go and find the version where you can see both things, what I mentioned, go find on YouTube, because two main characters, young man, young writer, and his now lover, German Baron Max, are living in their car, where entire restaurant full of dozens of people singing together one basic nation fascism anthem song, Sing Tomorrow Belongs to Me. And our main character look on Max and ask him, because Max before mentioned that fascists are actually Nazis, it's Germany. Nazis are useful, that they are fighting against communists. And again, that's true. Many people are unaware or forgot the rise of the fascism, and that's what I mentioned so much in my Rise and Fall of the Capitalism series, is that Flaws of capitalism led to rise of communism. And it was spread of the communism that actually react many people on other side leads to rise of fascism and Nazism. Nazism and fascism is directly reflex or outcome of rise of communism in society. And this Baron, this Marx, this rich German man, he makes point, but he is very silly in that. He is very naive, thinking that Nazis will be only a useful tool that will scare away, deal with communism, but nothing in the society will change. At least not for him, where he will be rich and powerful again. But as you all know, this was not the case. And it was actually opposite. Nazis became much worse than spread of communism in Germany. So he says that they are just useful tools and they are not important. And when they're seen with song Tomorrow Belongs to Me, they are living in their car and the main character asks Max again if he thinks that, I believe he said, if he believed that they will be take care about, or if they are not important, something like that. Basically suggesting that Nazism is not problem, or it's problem that will flow away or fade away, something like that. And there are videos that stop there, but you can find videos would actually just 2 or 3 seconds what is happening after. You can see main host from Kit Kat Club, MC, with his face fully covered by white makeup, with red lipsticks on his lip, how he is laying or sitting somewhere and he starts to nod by his hand, basically projecting this dark note that something bad is happening, suggesting that Nazism will be eventually much larger problem than the Max the Bear thinks. Tomorrow Belongs to Me entire scene is so chilling, but so truthful. Its embodiment how Nazism took basically all parts of the society. All that people basically represent some kind of group in the society. There's women with the child. There's elder man who looks rich and powerful, some probably kind of politician, important man in the community. There are troublesome young boys. There is young boy looking for themselves. There is young girl who is looking to get known or to be interested for someone. And we also have that one elderly old man not want to sing, rejecting, even when it's very unpleasant, even when you see everybody around him is singing, he is not, representing those who reject Nazism and war. But it was too late. The scene is so perfect. If you will not watch the movie, at least go and watch the scene. It's embodiment. And that's the reason why I'm listening in my car for actually several years. I have it for at least 6 years. These songs downloaded in my phone and playing in my car. And for that 6 years, not a single man or woman on the street have stopped by and looked at me. And even when I say that to, let's say, friends or people around me that I have that song, nobody knew what that song means. That is saying that nobody knew what it represents. Nobody is aware. And this is what's scaring me even more than the song itself. Literally, it's embodiment of those who are unaware of its own past and do not understand it, are deemed to repeat it. And we will definitely repeat it, because I already told you what the movie itself is representing. And there in the movie is another very corrupting topic. Our female character, because she's promiscuous, because she's sleeping with our main male character, with Max, with probably many others, she became pregnant. And she gets abortion. So another very ugly topic abortions and killing of unborn babies. The movie itself is so full of these topics, but also represent almost geniusly how all these things actually led to rise of the Nazism. The topic of abortion, the fact that abortion was so available back then in Germany, was reason why the Nazis actually invented Lebensborn and by the law forbid women to have abortion. This was literally backflash. The prostitution in Kit Kat Club, in the entire movie, is taken very, very lightly. But trust me that in Germany back there, prostitution was not something funny, or it was not expression of women being sexually adventurous. No, it was actually a sign of economic collapse of Weimar Republic, the Germany before Nazis, before Hitler. I remember in one document, what I actually saw probably in the same day as the Cabaret, because I have it connected. I saw one document that, yes, as the Cabaret itself suggests, Berlin was very open, free-like city before the rise of the Nazism. But also because the economical collapse of Weimar Republic, basically prostitution, as you can see in the movie, was everywhere. Almost every woman was selling themselves. And this is not sign of peaceful and harmonic society as well. And the greatest sign of that, what I constantly thinking, in Berlin, I believe it was in Berlin. In Berlin, there was a street. A street was full of female prostitutes. And they was standing one next to another. And each one was pregnant. But each one was basically in different day of pregnancy. From first sign of being pregnant to last day where due was scheduled, where the baby was supposed to be born. And the customers was literally capable to come to that street and pick up pregnant prostitute in any stage of pregnancy and have sex with her. This is how the German society looks like before World War II. And this is the reason why the Nazism was created and rise in the first place. Prostitution is not something positive. And if you have society where you have streets full of prostitutes, where you can pick up something like women in any stage of pregnancy and have sex exchange for money with her, then your society is fucked up, literally. And all these things are at least pointing out a little bit in Cabaret. Go and watch it. If you did not watch it, if you do not watch it before, at least go and watch it for once. Those who watch Cabaret are capable, at least for some degree, understand what happened, what created Nazism in Germany. But let's talk about another part that I believe not visible part that creators, basically theater and movie directors, actors, singers, and even author of the story itself, how they was not capable to see the things what they are describing is bad. I was shocked when I discovered the director of the movie itself do not make connection between all the things what the movie is displaying to actual rise of the Nazism in before World War II Germany. He do not connect dots. And more I realized that in every another review what I watched, more and more I realized that it's probably because what kind of people they are. For them, be dressed as the women, being homosexual and sing on the podium, it's normal, it's right, it's great. But the problem is that if you normalize LGBTQ or any kind of sexual deviance, your society is collapsing. If you normalize prostitution, your society is collapsing. If it's normal in your society to killing unborn babies, if you are allowing your women have interruption freely, your society is eventually collapsing. And it's great, and it's new dimension to that movie, not just seeing how all these things led to rise of Nazism in Germany, but also see in last 60 years how all these liberal things, same things what is happening in Germany, are now happening from 1960s around the world, and what kind of consequences they really are. The character what is played by Liza Minnelli, as I told you before, is literally attention whore. She likes to sing because she likes to be viewed. She likes attention. She's also prostitute. She have big daddy issues. So today, typically women raised in single household without without father. She's prostitute. She is living in poor. She's drinking very much. She's using too much makeup. And when she, first of all, she have daddy issues, as I explained. When she must actually face consequences of her action, when she discovered that she's pregnant, she rather go and kill the baby and have abortion to go to her club, prostitute herself, sing on podium. That's why she killed him. That's why she killed the baby. And yes, the people will tell you, because there is also some kind of notion that our main character was not so supportive toward her. It was much colder, or because she do not know if the baby was our father of the baby was main character, or the Max the Baron who was already disappeared, and things like that. But these things happen in history all the time. But in reality, before the time like 1920s and 1930s, people was just forced to marry, deliver baby, start families, have more babies, and live and work on their relationship. And it's not an example of what is wrong with our society and what was wrong with their society as well. That was, and we can see as well, interruption in Germany was so often that there was people who start to look upon that and say, hey, this is not right, we should stop it, and became integral part of Nazis' belief. It was Himmler itself who created Lebensborn to stop. I know that they told you, those who know Lebensborn, the program for extra breeding of German Aryan people, but that program actually started to allow women to deliver and giving birth to babies in some establishments instead of killing them, instead of going on interruption. And we can see literally the same thing, or not literally, but similar thing, or at least similar notion is happening right now. I know the feminist was bitching about it, and there was literally hysterical about ending of Roe versus Wade in the United States, and they constantly saying, oh, the women in the United States cannot have abortion anymore. They still can have. It's not true. It's just more complicated. So take it easy, dear feminist women. Anyway, the point is that people thinking is changing. That we start to think about interruption. We, more and more people, are starting to see that as actual murder of the baby. Or at least start to questioning. I remember the first reason, and I was pro-choice as well. If you are raised in our culture, you start as a liberal. That's why the man anti-feminist movement is named Red Pill. Because all these men have a feeling that they was blue-pilled, they was indoctrinated by liberalism, and then they suddenly realize reality, how the women are actually acting and behaving, and that's the red pill, that they was awakened from the matrix. That's why this community is called Red Pill, and it's very similar complex. We all start as liberals because our community, our culture, are constantly indoctrinated by liberal ideas. So I was pro-choice as well. But more and more I actually realized, more and more information I get, then more pro-life I became. And now I'm fully pro-life. I hate when they call it interruption of fetus, because that's communist newspeak. If you want to do it, then name it as it is. That's killing a baby, murdering a baby. And it's not interrupting of fetus, that's first. But the reason why I first start to think about hey, it's probably should be some kind of way controlled, or we should think about it a little bit and maybe not allow anybody to do it anymore, was I heard about the girl who went for interruption of her unborn baby because she would be too fat in her prom dress. And that was the first time where I start to think, where I realized even back then I don't believe yet that it's baby and it's living and it's not a person. Even back there, when I don't believe that yet, I told myself it's not alright to end up pregnancy just because you will be too fat for your dress. And this is the point. This is why it rise in embodiment of Nazism in 1930s, and this is why it's rising again. Roe and Wade is just beginning. Opinions of common people more, and yes, feminists are at control very much, liberals. Even when now Trump is president of the United States, even when he will be pushed to against LGBTQ plus woke, anti-interruption, what he is actually not, he will not fix everything. These issues are here still. The feminists and liberals are still at power. They are at power for decades. But the backlash against that is rising. That's the issue. That's what I was constantly trying to explain in Gender War series, in Failures of Women, and another Asian Complex series that will come. And this is what happened back then. In 1930s, the backlash to things would happen. Bad things, if bad things is happening, if it became normalized, if it became common in society, eventually society will have tendency to reject it. And if it's not rejected, then it became and spread to the society as it happened in our society. But it doesn't mean this is the end. More spread of these ideas will not end actually, because it will lend to more extreme things, and backlash will be eventually created. Because you cannot push and push and push towards your ideas further and further and further. That's the problem with today's feminism. They want equality, they became equal, and they do not stop. They push and push more and more and more and more rights and more freedoms and more things. This is the same. And we have the same problem with interruption as back then. We have the same problem with normalize of prostitution. The peoples who create Cabaret don't saw problem with men dressing like women and singing and dancing on stage, and where that leads to schools, young children be transited to another gender, or saying that they are one of the 52 genders. We have men who dress as the women reading the fairy tale books to little children. We have men wearing huge plastic tits and teaching in schools. And all these things are consequences of sexual revolution and thinking of the people who made Cabaret. And probably Cabaret is a huge part of that, because it's trying to normalize these things, that they are not okay. And again, as in 1930s, women are very promiscuous. And again, we have young men who are don't want women at all, or rather be with men as our main character, than be with the women. Not because they are not sexually attracted by women, they cannot be with a woman, but because it's more easier for them. And all these things we can see in that movie. And it is fascinating to see right now in this point of history, as it was not possible, let's say 15 years ago, because we did not see how far these things uncontrolled could lead. 15, 20 years ago, we did not see the consequences, full consequences of sexual revolution, fall down of monogamous family, spreading and normalizing of homosexuality, of interruption, and many things. Yes, the movie itself is trying to point out, and what we experienced in 1930s was very huge and very aggressive and fast reflex, rejection of these liberal ideas in form of fascism and Nazism. This is what happened. We did something wrong, and wrong is these liberal ideas, this normalization of bad things in our society, and society immediately react to it very negatively, too much negatively. It costs us even lives of innocent and too much suffering. But on the other hand, this repeat one generation later in 1960s. Nobody stopped it. And for 60 years, we slowly watch how all these things that they are negative evolve actually in terrible consequences. Sexual revolution led to fall down of family. Allowing interruption cost us 60 million killed babies, unborn baby, just in the United States in the last 50 years. Normalization of LGBTQ+ led to gays walking naked with only small skin bag, or his penis put inside small, basically on coin, smaller skin bag inside, otherwise totally naked, walking in the streets, pushing on rest of the society how it's okay and how he has a right to walk naked through the streets. Yes, I'm talking about gay parades. I hate them. No, it's not like I hate homosexuals. And yes, what I'm saying is that normalizing of homosexuality and other type of sexual deviance is bad for the society. You should lead them, they should normally live their life, be with the partner as they want, okay, but they should not walk on the streets and saying others, hey, this is normal, and everybody should act like us. That's not right. And especially if you are walking naked through the streets in very loud music, basically pushing your ideas on all of us. That's wrong. And the prostitution, where that leads us to OnlyFans, to pornography, where in my country, the women, the porn actress, actually many porn actors became literally celebrities, and they are invited in these shows to television. Everybody wants to speak with them, everybody wants to take a photo of them, or they are invited to parties like celebrities, like actors or rich people or famous singers. We literally have porn actresses that is famous because she was fucked in her butt by 8 different men. And she did that, it was filmed, and this was distributed, and because of that, she became famous. Very bad time of our history, and this is happening worldwide. Look what is happening on OnlyFans. The girls who are trying to compete how much men they can take in one day. The same girl is thinking that it's funny to walk on public streets with cum on her face. And this is all consequences of sexual revolution, liberalism, what happened during the 60s, that nobody stopped. And we can clearly see how both opposite extreme ways could lead to terrible outcomes. The first outcome reflects a total rejection of any liberal idea was terrifying. Letting all liberals, letting people do whatever they want, was as well as bad, but in other way. The same way as my metaphor with consuming too much food. When you consume too much junk food at one moment, there are only 2 things what will happen. First, your body will reject it and you will throw away it back, the content of your stomach, or your body will be capable to process it, but to eating too much and too junk food, you became fat. You became obese. And with fatness, you will have problems with movements, your body will be unhealthy, organs will be collapsing, and many other bad things. And this is literally what's happening. Allowing liberals led us to age where they normalize bad things and our society is collapsing from inside. It's not rejecting violently things, what in some course are right, but on other side, it's collapsing from inside. I heavily suggest to all of you, go, even when you watch it, let's say in the past before, go and watch the movie again. And watch and see all the things, how everything is dirty, how, let's say, main character of one of the main characters of MC, the main host in Cabaret, is kind of sleazy. How main female character is prostitute, how she's promiscuous, how she's silly and stupid, how our main character, how he is naive and he could be used and spoiled by others, how the Max, the rich baron, can flatter others, use them, and then just disappeared, and many other bad things. And if you do not do that, at least go and watch Tomorrow Belongs to Me. Because it's embodiment, how movement, how idea can take over the crowd, take over all parts of the society, one by one, slowly, and how it's actually uniting all these different people in one common goal, and that's what it's make it so powerful. Tomorrow Belongs to Me is embodiment, and especially how it was acted in the movie Cabaret. So I will say goodbye in just one sentence. The sun on the meadow is somewhere wrong. The star in forest runs free. Auf Wiedersehen.